Hey guys, Super Godzilla Final Wars here, and I am back once again with another video. Today, I'm going to be discussing on what if I made Jurassic World Dominion. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube about if they made the movie or, just basically them discussing their own personal version of Jurassic World Dominion. And I know it's been officially 2 years since that movie was released, but I can't help but to think about what I would do if I made Jurassic World Dominion. What would I do to make this movie better? Or possibly just as great as the first Jurassic World movie, or even just as great as Jurassic Park? Well, folks, sit back and relax as I explain what if I made Jurassic World Dominion. Now, there are a couple of things I'm going to be changing for my own personal version of Jurassic World Dominion. For starters, the first thing I'm going to be changing is I'm going to make the Giganotosaurus an actual main villain when rather than just simply an animal that's trying to live its life in peace. So the Giga will officially become an actual villain. The second thing I would do is give the Atrociraptors and Blue much bigger roles in the movie. The third thing I will do is, of course, I would have one main character die. Because the number one thing that annoyed a lot of people was none of the main characters died in the movie. And I'm going to be having one or possibly two main characters die in the movie. And the last thing I would change is no locusts. That was the biggest complaint about the entirety of the Jurassic World Dominion movie. The fact that the Giga was not a threat, but instead the locusts were the threat of the movie. So, without further ado, let us begin with the story, with my own version of Jurassic World Dominion. For starters, the prologue will still kind of play very similar to the original film, but after said prologue, we get somewhat of a glimpse of the Giga's backstory. The second part of this backstory will happen in the middle of the movie. So the first part of the beginning of the movie would kind of show the first half of the Giga's backstory. The Giga was born in a lab, and he had multiple siblings. 3 brothers and 4 sisters. In fact, life in Biosyn Valley was actually great for him. However, during their early years, when they became teenagers, the Giga's behavior began to change. And this was mostly due to because of the constant experiments that he and his siblings had to endure. The experiments were far more devastating than that of any other dinosaur had to go through. In fact, they were not allowed to leave the lab until they were officially done with the experiments. Some of the Giga's siblings ended up dying in the process, which caused Zeb to mourn for the loss of his siblings and caused him to hold a deep personal hatred for the humans. Now he only had 1 brother left and 2 sisters. And he was hell-bent on keeping them alive, despite being the youngest of the group. However, a new threat would arrive in the form of other apex predators that were eventually made in Biosyn Valley. Those other apex predators include Maposaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, acrocanthosaurs, and a bunch of other apex predators, including T-Rex and Spinosaurs. They made life for Zeb and his siblings a living hell. One of Zeb's last remaining brother was killed and eaten by a pack of acrocanthosaurs, and his two sisters were slaughtered by Spinosaurs and later on eaten by T-Rexes. This caused the Giganotosaurus to snap, and he went on a berserk rampage. He ended up killing a lot of other apex predators, including their family members. The Biosyn staff did try to stop Zeb, but they were no match, because he had an unknown kind of drug in his body that basically makes him immune to basically tranquilizers and resistant to heavy attacks. And this was mostly due to because of Biosyn using the wrong kind of DNA and, of course, adding the wrong kind of drug to make this animal so damn aggressive. That, and they also discovered that he was 30% larger, well, not 30%, but he was 3 times larger than that of his siblings. His siblings looked more somewhat of a scientifically accurate Giga, somewhat similar to the Jurassic World Evolution 1 Giga, while Zeb took on a much more different appearance. He ended up growing those weird spines on his back and ended up growing a more terrifying appearance. Zeb did not stop with his massive killing spree until every single apex predator in the valley was officially dead, or even too traumatized to even continue living in the valley. And so Biosyn had to take them away from the valley. But that was only just the beginning. For the Giganotosaurus was only just getting started with his revenge. And all that happened in the year 2010. Cut back to 2022, and it has been many years since Jurassic World, since the dinosaurs made it to the mainland. Of course, the first half of the movie remained the same, with Owen and Claire having to deal with a teenage Maisie and her wanting to just experience freedom. Except the half where Blue has a child all by herself. Blue was managed to find a male velociraptor that almost resembles that of the JP3 raptor, but a bit more, somewhat of a purplish color. And as a result, Blue had to put her nest further away from Owen and Claire in order to prevent her mate from getting in too close to their home. Of course, eventually, Maisie and Beta would get captured once again, and the other half of the film continues with Owen and Claire trying to make their way towards Biosyn Valley in order to get their daughter back. The original trio still makes an appearance in the movie, and they get invited to Biosyn Valley. However, during their travels, they shiver at Dr. Ramsey Cole tells them about the Giganotosaurus and his rough backstory. This is where we cut back to the Giga's backstory. After he massacred all the other apex predators, Biosyn attempted to make other apex predators. And this is where we see how smart the Giga is. He knew what the humans were doing and actually made his way to the lab and then actually destroyed everything. It's unknown how he knew about the lab and where it was located at. This is where his personality is somewhat similar to that of the Indominus Rex, where he was able to remember where he was born and where other dinosaurs are created. He destroys the lab and Dachshund orders a lot of his personnel to neutralize the dinosaur. Of course, this doesn't work. But at the same time, he was making a deal with Kenji's father. Kenji's father had a mind-controlled Asset-87 and a few other Spinosaurs. However, Dachshund was trying to warn him about what happened in the last time Zeb encountered a Spinosaurus. He doesn't listen and basically commands Asset-87 to attack the Giga. This happened in 2015 during the events of Jurassic World. When Zeb saw the Spinosaurus and a few other apex predators, his eyes turned from once yellow into somewhat of a bloodshot eye, and he goes on a berserk rampage. He grabs Asset-87 and slams him down so hard he flat out knocked the Spinosaurus unconscious and destroyed the device in his head in the process. And he literally slaughtered the other Spinosaurs like they were nothing by grabbing one Spinosaurus' spine and ripping it clean out, and even proceeding to eat the other Spinosaurus while he was still alive. The other dinosaurs that were mind-controlled rather escaped or got slaughtered in the process. However, it wasn't until Asset-87 woke up and saw what the Giga did to his friend that he got enraged and pushed Zeb so hard he actually was managed to knock him out. Asset-87 was about to kill Zeb, but he was tranquilized and transported out of Biosyn Valley along with a few other dinosaurs. At this point, Zeb had only just shown what he's truly capable of. He is just as dangerous, if not even more dangerous, than the Indominus Rex herself.